and see so many people and many of my acquaintances and friends. And to after how many years? I've been giving this lecture since 1981, every year in some place in Ontario, at least once a year, the Historical Society, schools, etc. I wonder if the children are resting now, because I'll tell you, the first person I interviewed at the invitation of the Peterborough Centennial Museum came to me from this area. And also in the audience tonight, I would like to give a round of applause to Francis Button. This is the grandchild of Bernardo, low back. There's Aunt Jane sitting in there, and Frances was one of the child stars at the recent Fourth Line Theatre. And so she has very kindly, at about the 12th slide, because Graham and Grandpa wanted her to see the history from which the drama came, there is going to be a slide, and it's going to have the title, Nobody's Children, which I learned when I was a child in Peterborough. And did anybody learn Little Orphan Annie has come to house? Anybody know that one? Do you remember the rest? To stay, to wash, and to clean. And the last line was, and if you don't look out, the goblins will get you if you don't look out. A fellow poet from Indiana called James Ripley. Oh, that's a treasure, because at this time I wondered what was like in Indiana writing about child. Well, Little Orphan Annie, the immigration into the United States of America, where I've been asked to do a chapter for a World Encyclopedia from the North Carolina University on the Canadian section. They went into the States, to Canada, to South Africa and Australia. Tonight, I'm focusing mostly on this, but please remember it started in the night. Now, let's just take a flower match. And across the fields, and I saw a plow behind the plow, silhouetted against the beautiful grasses and grains that made this beautiful country. And I remember John Wesley, or was it John Wesley or someone else said that scripture had to be in the vernacular, that every plowman would be able to read in his own language. When I looked at that man going across behind the ancient plow, I thought of these fertile lands, and that's where these kids came to. So I've got a couple of little pictures at the front, okay, that show the landscape. I've been interviewed over 100 of, well over 100, hundreds of people throughout Ontario, and letters from across Canada. And in the back of my books, this is the fourth printing by Dunbury Press. This has been reprinted 4 times. If you want the brand new edition from Dunbury, it's 1995. I had about 10 of these leftover publishers, first invested in this. Let me have these for sale. These are 10. Mark Lawrence wrote this. The voices of the children are incredibly moving. And a Reverend Arthur Page, who was the cabinet at St. John's Church, would call me when I was partway through all this, and he would say, Gail, how are you coming with that? What are you doing with that? Where are you in your research? And he kept me on the track all the way through. Well, I went to his funeral because someone phoned me, and the canon came up to me and he said, Gail, you never knew that Canon Page came with this immigration. From the Minister of Australia to the Minister of Agriculture in Ontario, lawyers in every profession. This is the most amazing story of nation building. Would you listen to a wee bit of music? When you come here, this is the land of milk and honey. To me, this slide, I know why this is Susie Price. I know I would have Joyce. So, you know, so we're going to have a historic look at this and Francis, we're looking that's just to audience. Canada, the great and noble country, said Susanna Lee, thou art the land of my adoption, the mother of the orphans of civilization. Our Susanna Lee said that this country was the mother of the orphans of civilization. Let's see. This is where our children. And as I drove across the fields of this fertile province, I knew they had found their homes in the agricultural-based economy of our country. Now watch, there are going to be two bright lights here, so watch your eyes, okay? The reason this is no longer those archives, which it was until 1975 here in Canada, is because school children and genealogical searches were looking for their roots. And there have been, each year since 1980, approximately 30,000 letters going in to Bernardo's of England. It became so overwhelming for the Bernardo staff, which had been cut back since 1930, they had to put additional staff. And ladies and gentlemen, there is absolutely no number in yet on this immigration. This is what we came to for the week. Have you been hungry? Have you been thirsty? That's why we came here. And this is why the children came out of a setting of poverty in which the politics was no longer personal. Somebody said to me once, Gail, the personal is politics. What happened? You had an insensitive government at this time. You had the wealthy and the poor, and no middle class. When societies start going that way, You're going to have poverty deaths. I don't do this lecture because it's past history. I do it because we have to continue to watch for the growth of our systems. Wheat, farming, because we were coming from the, they had promised us work in the cities. I'm speaking collectively, okay? Collectively for all of us as human beings. We were promised in the Industrial Revolution work in the cities, and unemployment started. And if dad doesn't come home with food, the kids go hungry. And as a result, the cities started to fill with alleys of destitute children and some destitute adults. And Dr. Bernardo, who I started to do an expose on, which was fine person, that the fine person started to find children. Now, the best book on his biography is by Jillian Wagner. It's my husband who tells me where to go some of the time. Okay. Now, if you want to read his story, and if the local library doesn't have, I'm trying to donate Julian Wagner. It talks about the whole story. He was accused of kidnapping, a variety of things. He was accused of injustice. He was brought up in the council. All right, so an interesting story, but he was one man who wanted to be a doctor and ended up going to London and opening a school for destitute children. There were a lot of children on the streets at this time. George Bernard Shaw was writing a lot about the children, rapes and strays, flower girl, the match girl. All that literature comes out of that period. Now, one day he was going to school because he felt that children had to learn to read, and we also accepted their parents because illiteracy was very high at this time in history. Where there's illiteracy, there will be poverty. And the little boy wouldn't go home, and he said, Jamie, you're supposed to go home. He said, I've got no mother, no father. He says, what do you mean? He said, you come with me, Dr. Bernardo, and we'll show you the rest of us guys. So they crawled across the rooftop because it was warm near the chimney pots. And there Dr. Bernardo saw something that shocked him when Lord Shaftesbury thought he had all kids in the schools and out of the pot area. Well, this is the jumped in on the game. Because you're musicians chanting, then you start to get and this so we always started to focus on this. There were a lot of wealthy people, and they had charitable hearts. So Dr. Bernardo gathered them together and started to establish homes for the children. This is a picture. I actually interviewed someone who used to eat by sticking a stick down through the grapes to grab the orange peels in a certain area of town. That was a man who was 75 when I interviewed him. He was long gone. I interviewed all first generation people, not their descendants. The alleyways. Well, we were in Dubrovnik on a Mediterranean cruise, and they all hang their clothes in the alleyways. Yeah, but this was in Glasgow. But where a lot of poverty was about. So Dr. Bernardo would go into these areas to find if there were destitute children. He soon established quite a large order. So use that word, but they had evangelical zeal to rescue children. And this place at the left is Stepney Causeway, which was a big warehouse. They called it the export emporium. They import kids were in it for you. But the you know, given that we were also trying to for Japan and some because it's overcrowded, no matter what. Now we can't get the partners, so they take before pictures of the children. It's the largest collection in the world from the 1800s, still in the Bernardo archive, which has been guarded over all these years. Victoria's still guarding of these private, personal cards. And they are related and go into these archives. And that's why people come back, right back, and there is a wonderful people only a pair from when they get past the here with United Empire, fortune, whenever. And here we are, this picture of this beautiful child. Now, this work, nobody's children. Who do you belong to? Who is your mother? Who is your father? Francis, you were in that teaching play. Francis has agreed to lead through all North America, all the British Isles, because he's such a good Francis will be proud to be his hope. No one you can have being an actress, you don't need it.
Francis is back.
Drew in the street, my torn old dress and bare cold feet. All day I wandered to and fro, hungry and shivering and nowhere to go. The night's coming on in darkness and dread, and the chills keep beating upon me yet. Oh, why does the wind blow upon me so long? Is it because I'm nobody's child? Oh, what shall I do when the night comes down, and its terrible blackness all over the town? Shall I lay me down beneath the angry sky? When the cold hard foods will long to die, and the beautiful children their prayers and snugly in bed. No, dear mother, ever upon his side. Why is it, I wonder, that I murder this child?
Branding of the tradition, and it was the color of a grain of mustard seed. And when our distributor, who was a small distributing company, Tom Mead of Cannon Books, brought it through all Ontario on those little book things with a Canadian, not flag, but a Canadian maple leaf at the top. Margaret Lawrence went down to Nick's and wrote me this wonderful letter next day. And so the grain of mustard seed, whatever you have to write. Now, I have seen Dee, you have a wonderful children's book on the pantry. I hope you get that.
Excuse me, can you leave some lights on? I can't pick up anything on the tape. Oh, yeah.
That all right, like side set.
That's fine, thanks.
Okay, when you see at the back, I prefer the piece, the slide, but what we have to do is if you
Yes.
Mr. Good, I would be happy to have you put everything at your computer to detail record.
Okay.
To get clear as possible. It's a very 5 years. I have expected to want to put this all into an archive. And go back to an archive, you have a CD from the public record being made. They may go back into the whole thing. For another 100 years. I don't want that visual images. So anytime, Mr. Gibson, just call me and I'll show you, take all kinds of pictures.
You can do that.
Well, you can see the numerous photographs here, and they start very, very early in history, like in even before Dr. Bernardo, some of these, but these were as early as Confederation, 1867. And so when I saw these, I had children this age, and I started to think about it. And thought, yeah, something and people with this picture that were born on the 10th area. Information is, if I can tell anybody in anything that you know, let me know. What really moved me to tears of Mr. Simpson's art, because I could see when I first started this, that the aftermath would be overwhelming, and I couldn't be available to everyone. He said, start this Hazel Grave committee. And it taught me that she took the file she collected to Father's grave and said, that means you're the building. Again, dark, but very dark, busy, discipline that they should do to make sure they were always working on something, and that was what was not here. So he would do before, when he found a child in the street, in poverty, and then he would bring the child in, they teach the industrial arts. This was a picture of the Stepney Causeway. No destitute child ever refused. His ward, by this time consisting of very wealthy British, did not want to take every child in. You had to have no mom, no dad, no family. Bernardo went walking past a dead child one day who had applied to come in by himself, and he told the board, no destitute child ever refused. Now, the children that stayed in England were trained in industrial arts. Many went into the Naval Academy. And if you know, Britain has ruled the waves from a long time back. A lot of those were children that came under the instruction of the Watts Naval Academy that was sponsored by Dr. Bernardo. He married, when he married, he opened a girls' village so they could have girls coming in that were destitute, and later he opened a castle for babies. He tried a placement in Africa, but it didn't work. And Canada was the closest destination. Now, don't we all wish in the winter we had gone to Australia? You know, when the export people come. When our minister, the Reverend Dr. Robert Ruth from Mark Street, he's taking a group of 40 to Ireland, and on Sunday we had a jazz band in a sanctuary. And I said to Bob Actor, whose wife Dolan is descended from this immigration, and whose daughter's done a lot of research, I said, oh, I think the children here. Between 1898 and 1940, more than 1,000 of Dr. Bernardo's children came to Canada each year. The immigration did not stop until 1939, and one of the most recent principals from our school district came. Like their school superintendent, one person was also coming out of this immigration. And the head of the children's aid in Peterborough at one point in history was descended from this immigration. These boys were being fitted for Canada at an early period. They really didn't know how to dress kids for Canada. Look at those gorgeous hats. Unfortunately, they grew up to clothes quickly, and if you were raised on a farm, I was raised on a small farm, it wasn't easy being on a farm. So when the children come here, they come and it was not the adjustment, plus all for being on the farm. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not excusing the abuse, okay? Abuse that means at the beginning of time and will continue till the end of time. We have exposure on that all the time. That's not our focus. I focus on children being nation builders and overcoming every they got. Why they are heroes. The ships everywhere, as long as the watches and important stories of the children coming down through the seeing the icebergs, important stories of kids dying on ship, kids living because they ate all kinds of oranges. All these are their own wonderful stories. But the ships came into the harbors. Now, when this is Canada, this is Lake, this is the Bathurst, this is Peterborough, this is Orangeville, wherever it is, the British people knew that these kids were coming to something less than what they were doing. So there was opposition to the children coming. The problem was the economy wasn't. First impressions of Bernardo. Now that wasn't blanket at all, but that was in a British magazine, okay? Someone had his mother being visited. This was the ship. This was a picture of kids on the ship, kids on a farm. Eventually, Bernardo's did start to train their older boys in agriculture to equip them to come to Canada. This was a Bernardo trunk. If you find it, don't throw it out. Make sure you give it to someplace, the Peterborough Museum. Did you know something? I just found out recently that Bernardo's of London did not even have one of these historic trunks. So one was sent back to them from some kind donor in Canada. They weren't expecting 30,000 letters a year. Now, inside the trunk, if you're lucky and you find one of these at an auction, it's not like you go now, you'll find the outfits for the kids. So it's an interesting study in clothing changes over the years. Well, tell me what, dear, I have some photographs up here that they called it alligator skin at this period. It was sort of an alligator skin. That was the trademark with the hardwood going across and then the buckles. So alligator skin would be them. I think some pictures up here. Inside the something's that are ripped off because they take it on with them, and they may not want to leave that outfit on. Now, these were the books. So Dr. Bernardo would come, as long as he lived, to each ship. There was a Bible, a Sankey hymn book, a you know, a Don Bunyan, Silver Program, because that was about life. Ups and downs, get through this. Meet the giant, defeat the giant. Very positive, go on. Travelers' philosophy, we are travelers in life. Now, Harold Green, if you have some of these things in the museum, St. John, because sometimes the ship would come through the top of the States and across Ontario. And that's where the States was hooking up with it. Actually, it was a retired professor at the North Carolina University who's doing this research, and he is descended from the Canadian immigration. Someone was talking about going to Russia. My book has already gone to Russian in English. This was at the coming into the immigration check. The children come into the immigration checks. The boys travel together on their lady superintendent or cabinet superintendent. These were often couples that would come here and they would stay here, or they would go back. They got their passage by these to the children's group coming until they got into Peter. Now, here is the group of children, some of themselves here. And I was really surprised to get this because it's very hard to read. It's always at a place where the audience can't read it for the sake of privacy. This is all. This one can also why the child was admitted, under what conditions. This mother had been widowed to want to get the child out, but she could not afford to take the child out because they made the parent or the parent for the boy that was already. So the child, if the child is stuck for 2 years, they can now food for it's just interesting. So even if the mom or parent had wished that there are stories about it, through that minute, that story bringing the child back. Now, when they came into picture, we talked about all the characters, not the children, that this immigration issue. We are just going to get every time we put something up that is where we went, and in the scope of anything, that's not the document. This is the way from the staff chamber of Congress, picking up the children coming up along in Peterborough. But then we get to the Hazel Grave, and this shows the costume at this period is very early, across from Queen Alexander School. Goodbye, Francis. Goodbye, Flo. Goodbye, Murray. Goodbye, Jane. Thank you ever so much, Francis. Bye-bye. She has to go do her skill setting. This was the house. It belonged to the city at the time. It's no longer there. It was on Bernardo Avenue, the gully. There's a historic plaque there. Mayor George A. Cox gave them this property. I went to the courthouse and Stan McBride, who was the sheriff, the mayor.
Yeah.
How we get that? So now we George A. Cox himself. So, who became one of the first millionaires in Canada, Senator George A. Cobb, who laid the cornerstone down here at the United Church. He and his wife were involved in supporting this movement into Canada. This is an history of the archives right now. The archives of Joseph also children. So in all stories that our history evolved. This is the first these are recent things received from England. When the children arrived, their trusts are inspected. This, I have some of these up there if you want. It shows it's not because doing research, Professor Gordon when I see the whole thing, and so is that the people to receive the children. So here, this has just put a picture there. Inside the schoolhouse, I knew the schoolhouse, I knew the school people, there, children, Miss Loveday, and Miss Loveday for grade 8, who was the school. This was there, yeah, children should have provided. Now these pose pictures, so you watch through the history of photography. So they're going out to placement on the farm. Now, in information history, even to research, and you want to home, and you were going to go into on the farm. The only history that has been unrecorded. The children here in front of the school. I found it quite difficult because when they arrived at school, they took front of the wagon, and all the little kids were people that lost the British accent. So the school, and eventually they all integrated, and they intermarried, and many inherited very fine farms. The magazine Ups and Downs reported a lot of history. I've had some of those. I had a lawyer's wife come to me once, and she said, Gail, my husband, he came with this immigration, and would you give us permission to photocopy these Ups and Downs, because he wants to look through and see what he can find on his own family. So I do not mind helping people that are still researching. With doing projects. This is an old girl that would be domestic service. She'd be trained in school. You know, every domestic science at school, you learn how to cook, you learn how to sew. And this, all the older girls were taught to sew. Younger lads would have to go into manual tasks as they served on the farm. The girls and the boys happened with the farm. Now, if the child stayed at the farm for 5 years, he would get this good level. Some children left early because of abuse and other reasons, but some did receive. Over 90% of our youth were part. These were young women being trained to serve. In fact, one of these young women who served at the Grove School. She was the first woman that came to me. She was visiting a friend at Lakefield, and she died the following year. And I got a call from her daughter in Ottawa. Said, Mom told us she came with this immigration, and you are the lady that has it recorded. So I gave her the tape. That's why I called children's spirit will come to rest to know that they are home now, and they are family, and they are nation builders. This you have to take not not just a but a single lady nurse, and she determined to bring her back to England, and she sent the orders before the Lord, and she got the doctor's back, and she trained her in art, and she became this book about her was written by Professor John of Cambridge University, from one room that said, I know that was my heart. She came and we drew. And safety of protected which was being eroded by time. Area clock is there now. And another one was installed by the committee. Most of these young men went back in World War One. Some opened fine stores. Bernardo boys watched, Bernardo girls watched. There was a whole, they even went back and they didn't have tea with the plane. And they called me up and they'd say, Gail, guess where I was? Yeah, where was I? Having tea with the plane. Huh? That little found the time to see Mark still with the word in English. Also, when it moved from Peach to Paul, Georgie Paul, the new next to the page on Georgia Street, we have what's his name? You, what day was that? Student showing me. And she said, Gail, she said, across the hill, don't say your book. And so we got Lakefield showing me, Lakefield connection. What do you think they can do? I think these children started here on because this is a generous heart starting. We also had an agricultural base. And we were all still human. There were full. I don't deny that. The human species is full of them. But I don't focus on it. This was the Jarvis Street House. That was going across Canada. The boys. Mr. Struthers, his and now the part in the out the regular but Mr. Struthers, he was in charge, his father was in charge of the immigration into the West, into Russell, Manitoba. There's not a top, there's, if you look at that, you would get in the back of my book, first pencil, you would get a whole, so, you could just go home there. Some of these boys that went with, but then it's not in our early stuff. And that's why we're very focused on the people, some people, World War One, sort of, this is a story. This boy sort of death. It's really hard in this is when people and you're mom. So we start looking for creating for social justice, and the mayor's committee proposed. Mm, then we will to came home and most people, this is Canada, living somewhere in this great dominion with their own families and with thousands of descendants. And I look up to them. Just want to read the preface. I wrote this for one 80-year-old lady who had the kindness to tell me her story. And she said, if the voices aren't heard, and you know, there are a lot of things out now, who will do it? And I wrote it for the Bernardo children and their descendants. The Bernardo children and their children. It is a portrayal of a human spirit struggling against tragedy towards a new hope. It is the reflection of visionaries who believe in the potential of the individual, and that realm was the beginning stamp. It is children building better world and their descendants. It is the materialization of the hope to those who journey. Yesterday, the children journeyed alone, seeking the promise of the new world. Today, their numbers are legion, and they are counted among our most courageous and successful nation builders. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Gail, I'm hoping that you will entertain questions from the audience should they have any.
Yes. In countries go according to the political mood of the elected times. Therefore, if there was sensitive material they felt that the voters might rebel against, they would hide arguments. For example, although Australia's one of the prime ministers was a Bernardo child, and so highly, within the last 6 years, there have been several court cases by the descendants of those child immigrants against the British government that came into court. To date, there is only one case in Canada. I met the gentleman, and he was 9 years old. I met him at a historical meeting, and he was an amazing man of stature, 90, and he said, well, you are talking to one that is bringing a court case against Bernardo's, but the court cases from Australia were against the government. They were lost and dismissed, but sometimes governments will close our for yes, yes, for the ages, the very young children that came for adoption. This was the first adoption agency in Canada, where sometimes as young as 3 those children were put out and lost in our landscape. And they may never, like with adoption, sometimes children never find out their roots, so they're young. The next group was about 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. That group. They were put onto the forest because at 9 you could collect age, you could expect, although there were many cases of overwork, which are reported. But that was the next group. Some were just adopted almost like as family members, so there's a variety of stories. The last section were youth that were 16 and 17 in that age, and they were sent straight to the west, and they got homestead land. They were expected to go right to land and plow for 2 years. Then after that, they got all their expenses, homesteading things, and they got the plot of land in very fertile prairie land. They were the wheat farmers. A lot of the wheat farmers came out of the
The kids who came over, they came from England. Would they keep that name, or would some of them change it?
Another good question here. Some of the children's names were changed. That's as some of the communities went to English-speaking communities and would take the name of the community. Some of them even went to French-speaking communities and were permitted to keep their English names by the French people. So you have plenty of things here. Lost identity and name changes did happen. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Mrs. Chapman. And Mrs. Chapman's bread is an amazing story in doing the job in the list. Brothers and sisters, this philosophy of bringing the children together as siblings changed over the years between